not really here to tell you that. I was amazed at the lack of people's interest in this whole process. But my question really is on the building project. You have a school here at Bay Lane / Country Meadows that can hold, it currently holds over 900 students. And if you're planning this plan to bring in students from Test Corners, and roughly take it to about 740 students, why couldn't you fit both Test Corners and Muskego L into this school, into this physical property, which currently, I think it's 953 students, 988 students are currently in this facility. And it sounds from the plan that you're only going to be putting in like 700 to 750 students in this building. Why not put everybody in here and not make any renovations to Mill Valley and save roughly $10 million?
Well, that was actually a plan, that was one of the options that the Master Planning Committee did consider. That was something that was considered, as well as bringing forward to the board. Through the prioritization and looking at what was best for our community and for our school system, the decision to renovate Mill Valley so that it could hold 550 students seemed to be an ideal solution for closing Muskego Elementary. So that was what was done, and also it allows this current building to absorb any new growth from our eastern corridor. So there's a number of Belle Chase and Astor Hill and things. That's where all of our growth is happening, and so this building does allow then for growth to occur, and that we would be able to.
Projections for what the enrollment might be.
Well, the most recent POP lab indicated that we would be flat based on where we were with regard to our facilities. So without anything new, they weren't able to indicate that they would find growth. So we are seeing growth, though, just as far as the subdivisions and the homes that are going up right now in Belle Chase and Astor Hill.
Okay, well, it seems like a pretty big price to pay for projected growth. I mean, you could always do something a little later on in Mill Valley if you needed to balance it out. To spend that much money now, just the question of this, the best thing to do, but for your expertise. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board comments? Go ahead.
So just to recap, so I found this whole process quite unique that 7 of us, after discussion and multiple debates, we're really coming down to these 7 items here. Everyone's on this board has shared this. I mean, the funding request that we have here is consistent with our plans going forward as far as our long-range plans in support of our students and our stakeholders. This board has communicated the reasons over and over through surveys, through the master planning committee process, through the facility study team years ago to the public for the additional funding. We've provided continual opportunity for stakeholders, for citizen input to come in through the master planning committee process, through the public forums that we have, through surveys, and our school board meetings here. The school board itself, and credit a lot of the senior members here, have just done an outstanding job in being fiscally responsible over the past years on the board. Muskego has seen tax decreases over and over and over again as a result of this board's action. And is the passage of this referendum and what we're recommending essential to achieving these goals of our district? And yes, they are, and that's been determined. And then another thing that's been said is, have we looked at our current reserves, and have we looked at our reserves and where we're at? And yes, we have, and we're dedicating a substantial amount to that referendum that we're proposing. And to the point where we're looking at operating costs and future financial needs and the challenges that they may face. So I'm very much appreciative of that. And so going forward, I think
have is, and to address Mr. DuPont, is that was one of my ideas that came to put everybody into this building and not do any renovations on Mill Valley. And I was pretty firm on that when I first proposed it. And as I thought about it, and as we worked through the process, what I noticed the only flaw in that is that we were going to spend almost $36 million to basically house the same number of students. And I was struggling with that. And when we moved and we started to develop the $43 million plan, and I noticed that it would allow us about a 300 to 400 increase student body size at the K-8 level. It really seemed to make sense to me that we change the plan, we accept the increase in dollars now, especially with the $20 per thousand, or 20 cents per thousand increase, which is significantly lower than we've had in the past, what we've proposed in the past for referendums. One of the things that kind of made me accept this idea and fully support it is, like Chris was talking about, the school board here over the last 5 to 6 years has either had a 0% or a negative percent for levy increase in your tax dollars, and we've done that purposefully. We started doing, and we made sure we were doing that prior to the second 2 referendums ago, and we continued to do that because we wanted to show the community that we were thinking about the bottom line and that we were fiscally responsible, so that when we did bring a referendum, the community would understand that we were bringing exactly what we felt was appropriate at a dollar amount that we felt would be affordable to this community. Our average home value in Muskego is about $275,000. So we're looking at about a $50 increase per year, which is even, we've had levy increases prior to 5 or 6 years ago that were higher than that, just for 1 year's operating costs to operate the district. So that's kind of where I got sold on the idea of let's increase the capacity now, and hopefully we won't be coming back in the future, especially the near future, to ask for more space, because I do see on my side of the city pretty significant growth, and I think it's going to continue from what I've learned from the city and about development. So that's where I'm at. And that's why I went the direction I did, even though I proposed the lower amount several months ago.
Thank you. Anyone else? Like Mr. Schrader said, this is not the end of the conversation on this, but yet the beginning of it. There will be many, many more opportunities to get educated on how we came to this decision to go forward to the community, and many opportunities for people to weigh in, ultimately with their own vote, and let the community decide if we go forward with this. So, that being said, all those in favor, actually, do we need to do a roll, or can we do a, Darlene, can we do this as a voice vote, or let's just do a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item is same subject matter, just a different part of the legal process of this. Clerk, please read it.
Motion to approve resolution providing for a referendum election on the question of the approval of an initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $43,180,000.
So moved. Second.
Any further comments or discussions? As I said earlier, this is really just part 2 of the part we just spoke about. Anything new on this? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Continuing on with the agenda, moving on to item 4, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Thompson.
Wow, welcome everybody to Bay Lane. It's wonderful to be here on this very chilly evening. So, Dawn, if you want to introduce your team, thank you very much for preparing for this report to the board.
Sure, thank you. And welcome everyone. Welcome to all the high school students that are here. It's wonderful to see some returning Bay Lane students. And welcome to the board. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to have students joining for dinner to learn more about everything that we're doing here at Bay Lane. With me is Ms. Rajewski, our associate principal, Ms. Kim Crosby, our math coach, and Ms. Kristen Bigley, our literacy coach. And you can see a number of our teachers are still here, staff members that joined us for dinner, that were a part of putting this together behind the scenes and helping us bring in student work samples. But before I start, I am going to turn the light on right above the smart board here. That works? Okay, great. So again, welcome. We're really excited to have you here. Very excited to share with you many things that are going on at Bay Lane. We're going to go over some celebrations. We're going to review some of our trend data in the area of reading and math. We're going to share with you more about our school learning objective, specifically in the area of writing and how it relates to teacher learning objectives, and also some of the connections we've made to processes within the school for PLC and staff development and learning. And we're going to end with a little clip from one of our Bay Lane choirs. You can see I have a little clip of an image from back in the spring when our Eye on the Goal team was beginning the process of analyzing our data in the spring, looking at what our direction should be for this school year. And we had just finished the Badger exam, and we started to look at multiple content areas and thinking about, in the area of reading, if the entire district's goal is to improve literacy, what are the components of reading? And we talked about reading, writing, speaking, and reasoning, and talked about this is not just a goal that's about our literacy teachers. It's about the entire school community embracing this topic. And that's how we came to look at data. We'll share some of that data with you, and we'll also talk about how we decided to focus specifically on the area of writing. Happened earlier. Celebrations at Bay Lane. Teachers have been honoring STAR Growth, our new assessment, our universal screener, and having celebrations in their classrooms. During rounding, when we asked teachers what is going well, more than half of our Bay Lane staff noticed collaboration as being an area that is very much to be celebrated. Every grade level's median SGP, or student growth percentage, is above the goal of 35. Our Eye on the Goal committee made data accessible so that the PLCs know every student by name who is below benchmark for reading. So we're really diving into the data and making sure we're addressing all the needs of students. More than a third of the Bay Lane families have received positive contacts home. 96% of our staff reported feeling grateful that they have the resources and tools necessary to do their job well. Our PBIS team cut the number of students with habitual tardies in half, celebrating with a school-wide assembly. And finally, Bay Lane's 6th grade choir was honored at the Wisconsin Choral Directors Association this past Saturday. Miss Sarah Milton took the 6th graders up and they performed at Lawrence University, and that's the clip you'll see at the end. So our reading trend data. If you look at the left-hand column of the aggregate of reading, you can see that we made a significant jump with the Badger assessment in the area of reading. We were able to, in our socioeconomic status area, we did some gap closing work. And one other thing that we noticed both in reading and math, that we are able to sustain and increase over 4 years at Bay Lane a student's reading achievement. If you look at some other middle schools, usually that trend goes down. Over 4 years, students make improvements while they're here. And an opportunity for growth in both reading and in math is to do more gap closing work in the area of special education. And again, if you look here, we made gains in math in last year on the Badger exam. One thing that you'll notice is that it's near the 70% mark. If I go back, reading is just above the 70% mark. You can see we made greater gains in the area of reading, but I have a hypothesis on this. In the area of reading, on the Badger assessment, they took back the piece of where students had to write a response to their reading. They didn't do that in the area of reading. In math, they did. And so we think this accounts for why our math was more stabilized and didn't show as great of an increase. And we think that leads into the goal that we've written this year to address writing in all content areas. This is our report that we use to measure our school learning objective, to measure by grade level how many students are reaching that SGP of 35, which we learned from STAR is what we should be expecting for students. And you can see that every grade level has a significant amount of students that have already met that goal, and we're only to January. This was a test that was in December, so we're really excited about the amount of growth that we're making in the area of reading here. I'll turn it over to Rachel.
And next, our slide is about our reading SGP, and as you can see, with our goal of 35, we also surpassed that from 52 up to 61, and a significant percentage of our students meeting their growth goal. The percent proficient is lower than our math. I can go back and see our math is in the 80s. And our proficient, that's the district benchmark, but our growth is something that we're proud of and celebrating. And that leads to our school learning objective that our SLO, as Dawn mentioned, is that our students would have a median growth percentage of 35 in reading. So at our winter mark, we've surpassed that, and so hopefully with our plans going forward, second semester, that'll continue to increase. How we'll reach our school SLO, continue to increase our growth. We are just entering in our PLCs, our second data into action cycle. And our On the Goal team has provided data to those PLCs to really drill down on the students who aren't meeting their growth goals. Our coaches worked with Dawn and I to create some tools and templates that our PLCs can use to progress monitor the data into action cycles. Co-teaching is a new initiative at Bay Lane, and our co-teachers are finding a lot of success accelerating the growth of our students with IEPs. We've had a lot of professional development and then some walkthroughs to give feedback to our co-teachers. Our literacy committee, led by Kristen Bigley, set reading goal setting conferences, and they created a standard template that our students use across grade levels to set goals in the area of reading. It looks like I skipped universal screening meetings. We just had our second one last week. We've had 16 students dismissed from our Tier 2 interventions so far at Bay Lane. And our universal screening meetings here include a whole team of teachers with our school psychologists, administrators, coaches. So it's really a team approach where we use multiple data sets and teacher feedback, and then make decisions about where the students would receive interventions if that's what's best for them. Our coaching model focuses on small group instruction, trying to push some of the Tier 2 interventions into the core classroom where we can meet more of the needs of our readers. Our literacy committees fostered a culture of loving to read. They have a hashtag love to read. We had a read-in. Teachers put in their signature in their emails, the books they're reading. They put up around the building the books they're reading to build that love for literacy. Our On the Goal committee, as Dawn talked about, is always relying on data and making data visible and accessible for staff in the building. And then our SLO, which is writing but aligns to our growth of our readers. And so our teachers' SLO, while our school goal is the 35 SGP, our teachers have set a goal for our students to increase their ability to write short answer responses to prompts. And some of our teachers are encouraging students to use multimedia text, images, artwork as part of their responding to text. With the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, there used to be more of a focus on students writing using their background knowledge and experience to support what they're writing about. And with the shift in Common Core, students, in order to prepare for college and career readiness, need to rely on evidence for their writing and speaking. And so they use text. So they're reading analytically and then looking for evidence to support their claims. And hopefully you heard some about that from students. And one thing being new to Bailey that has stood out to me and Don mentioned as well is just the professional collaboration. We have so many teachers with so much expertise and many teacher leaders here. And as we all build our professional capacity to teach writing, I've seen teachers work across content areas and grade levels to really build all of our ability to be better instructors of writing.
First, I have to give a shout out to Michelle Plowshines, who is our tech integrator here at Baylane, who helped work with us and the teachers in giving you a snapshot into the classrooms of what students are saying about writing and the work that teachers are doing in the area of their SLO.
Kids have always struggled seeing that the things that we teach as part of literacy class apply to more than just in English class.
So last year, we were really excited to be able to witness that our students were using some of the writing skills that we were teaching them in English and science class. It was decided that we would focus this school year on a writing goal. And specifically, that we would work together as a staff to help students construct short responses to prompts, to questions, to art, to music.
And then hopefully they'll see that transfer beyond just English class or literacy class, but that this is what they do for any type of writing in any class.
Focusing on claim evidence reasoning, I see students using that vocabulary outside of constructed responses, even in conversations at their tables without being prompted. Instead of a student just showing their math work and providing an answer, they are now doing that same thing, but also justifying their answer and making sure they're truly demonstrating reasoning why their answer makes sense.
For students, based on the criteria listed, to scoring 1 through 4 on making a claim, relying on evidence, demonstrating their reasoning, and then check convention and usage. Not being a literacy teacher, it's interesting to see that side of kids.
It's been really awesome to see how students begin to think more deeply about how artists work and also in their own artwork. And then also I think it's been really great for some of the students that maybe haven't done as well on some of the STAR testing or in their literacy classes, for the students that excel in visual thinking is one way to tap into reading in a different way for them.
So students kind of get a inspirational quote that meant something to them, and they had to do a writing prompt about their reasoning why that quote was important to them.
Kids have to decide which verb conjugation, make a claim, and then they would have to demonstrate reasoning why they would use that verb conjugation.
I'll have students not only say why we have a safety feature in class, but then have to give a reason and support it with evidence of why that is.
In science recently, we've been doing a claim evidence and reasoning project where we have to find an unknown organism and develop a claim and then support it with evidence that we found.
It definitely improves their writing, so it's more organized, you can see their thought process, and I think that they definitely benefit.
We use RACE so that it is easy for other people to read our writing, and it makes us stronger by thinking about our writing more in any class. You can use something like this just to back up your
answer for a question. Students can communicate mathematically in words along with providing evidence, whether it be drawing a picture, making a table, and then justifying that in words to show them that they understand. Usually I have 4 or 5 pieces of evidence for it to really support the claim, and it organizes it into different parts. That makes it easier to sort it out.
Students are increasingly examining what they say when they answer a question and feeling good about developing evidence to answer questions instead of simply just giving a rote answer.
I've seen argumentation benefit students in many ways. I think the biggest thing is that they know when they are having a discussion in class, or they're sharing on an answer in class, or writing something down in an assessment or project, they know that they're expected to provide these items in their answers, which allow for more thorough and deeper answers. We use race in our writing every single day. If it's a math question or science question, you can use it. You don't have to learn 10 different strategies. You only need to know the one. It would be a great thing to use in later years, like college or just even high school, and it will make your writing look a lot better at some point.
So since we've been teaching explicit strategies for writing a short constructed response, we've seen huge improvements in our students' writing.
Literacy, it gives you proof that you know what you're talking about. We use all the time in science and math and social studies, literacy too, pretty much all of our classes. In high school, when I have to write reports and essays and stuff, I'll totally use that.
So a little glimpse into the classroom, what students and teachers are talking about with this writing. So we're utilizing data. And we're using our STAR data to drill down on very specific standards that support our goal. So, for example, in 5th grade, they're quoting accurately from a text when explaining what the text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from the text. In 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it's the same standard that we're able to draw data from, and that's citing textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. So we are actually trying to move as many students into the above and within area, and we already have a net growth of 8.6%.
One of the things then, after we looked at the data and we reviewed it, the teachers were able to connect the school-wide reading goal into their content area classes. So, for example, as you saw in the video, the math teachers and some of the students talking about being able to explain their math thinking. One of the math practices that comes with our Common Core standards is to construct viable arguments and to critique the reasoning of others. And so our students have been working really hard not only to be able to write their own explanations, but to be able to look at each other's explanations and help other students improve and grow in that. We have a school-wide rubric, as you saw at dinner, that does the claim, evidence, and reasoning that all of the students are familiar with, that all the teachers use throughout their assessments and writing.
So focusing on both reading and writing really is critical to the success of all of our learners across all content areas, because reading and writing don't happen in isolation from each other. One supports the other. The more that you read, the better you become at writing, because you acquire new vocabulary, you learn text structures, obviously your information becomes wider and broader, and you can write about more topics. Writing more, you become better at reading, because as you write, you start to think like an author. Who's my audience? What's my purpose for writing? You draw on all those skills that you learned in both reading and writing to become a more literate person. And so focusing both on the reading and the writing as a school goal just makes sense to develop all of our kids in literacy across all content areas.
So that's the what. I want to put 2 slides in here to explain the how. So last year we came to you as middle schools to talk about a change in the student schedule and a change in the teacher schedule, and that afforded us the opportunity to have time in the mornings to meet. And as we shared earlier, many staff members appreciate that there's standard time that we can have meetings and make things happen here, and it allows everybody to have a different schedule after school. But anyways, professional meetings and learnings. On Mondays, we have our PPS meeting where our PPS department, school counselor, school psych, and social worker meet with grade levels to talk about individual students to address needs. Every Wednesday, we have our PLC, and everybody is in a PLC group between 4 to 6 people. And we have a staff meeting once a month, and then we have options of staff joining in a book study or in a menu of professional development opportunities. And that's a way that we're continually learning and using that time together as a staff. Another piece that we put together as an Eye on the Goal team is a year-long document that tells us from the beginning of the year when we start in August all the way to the end of the year in June what we're doing on those specific Wednesdays during the PLC time. And so you can look from the left, that is the dates. The second column is our assessments, any of the standardized assessments across the district, when are they happening? And then the SLO and the PPG related to educator effectiveness, but also connected to the work that teachers are doing to learn and to grow students. And finally, actually using the data into action process. So 3 times a year, how are we utilizing data and having that continuous improvement of looking at data, making instructional decisions, and taking it back into the classroom.
So every Wednesday we meet, as Dawn stated, as a professional learning community, about 4 to 6 teachers in a group. During that time, we do go through the data into action process. As we go through that, we pull all different formats of data. So we use our STAR data. We also use classroom assessments that the teachers have created. They look at their student learning objective data that aligns to our school goal. And then they also are using just their classroom observations, and they identify the strengths and areas for growth at each content or grade level. And like we stated before, all of the teachers know students by name and exactly where they are as far as their universal screening STAR achievement, as well as their growth, and they know which ones aren't growing. And during the PLCs in the mornings, the teachers then collaboratively work together to make sure that they're sharing their ideas and instructional strategies. And so every week, the teachers are working together to make sure that if it's a different instructional strategy that's needed for a student or a small group, that they're addressing that and they're sharing and they're discussing that. Through this process, the teachers are really able to reflect a lot quicker on what's working and what's not working in their classroom. They know that they have that Wednesday morning coming up, so there's always somebody else to bounce ideas off of. And without this consistent collaboration, we wouldn't be able to quickly respond to the student needs as we have been this year.
So right alongside that, in addition to examining the data and determining the needs of our students, it also identifies the needs of us as learners too. What do we need to do to improve our practice in order to better serve our students? And so in addition to those Wednesday TLC meetings that teachers have, 8 times a year, teacher groups meet in either a book study or a menu of options professional development opportunities. We know that adult learners are served best and professional development is most effective if learning is ongoing, if it's embedded into the school day or to the work day, if it focuses on student learning, and if it happens in collaboration with others. And so to honor that and through teacher input and choice, teachers participate either in a book study or other optional professional development that supports reading. Could be small group instruction focused, it could be developing extension menus, it could be integrating writing into different content areas, and embedded in that are continuous opportunities to change up. So if a teacher or a group has exhausted all the possibilities with the content area writing book, they have the option to decide to take their group into a different direction that best meets the needs of our students. The upside of that opportunity is that 6 times a year, we get to meet and learn in the context alongside of our colleagues, which is really a wonderful opportunity to get their input, to learn alongside of them. It never would have happened if we didn't have this time together.
finally, we would be remiss in not thanking you for your support of not just our academic programs, but also the extracurricular activities. This is one of the songs that the 6th grade choir sang on Saturday at Lawrence University under Miss Sarah Milton's direction. And it's pictures of all of our choirs. And that's our presentation. So we thank you. This is the plaque that Mrs. Milton received on behalf of the choirs. And actually, it was our current 7th grade choir that they sent an audition tape last year as 6th graders, and that's who won the competition. But you go, the choir that won it is the one that goes for this opportunity, and it's really quite an honor. So at this time, I'll turn it back to any of you that have questions for any of us.
Any questions for the administration? Go ahead.
Thank you, Don. So looking at last year, I've got another comment about, like, I'll ask my question first. So last year we had a comment on intervention. I think we had, from what I gather, those are pretty successful score ball where you actually let, I think you were able to dismiss over 20 as a result of that. Is there an idea on where we are with intervention for this year?
Right. What was the number that you quoted? How many dismissed? 16 so far.
So you're seeing that
Continue.
trend, and that's going forward. That's good. I really appreciated the way you tied the SLOs to the eye of the goals and walking us through. Looking at, and I know it's hard, you know, it's my enjoy the data. It's really hard when you look at 2014 census for all the schools because they had the DPI at their data at that point, and Baylor was exceeding expectations at that point. And so it's hard now because you don't have to know that data, not due to anything from the district of the state. So, but even with the data that you gave, and I crunched a lot of this through, and what I think is just incredible here is that not only do you provide trend data on a STAR assessment for 2015, you're including the current year. And so some of your trending that's just so powerful. That timely feedback for students and parents is just extremely powerful. So thank you for that. And I know that's a lot of effort on the administration and teachers to do that. But I can see that in your student achievement and your growth. And even where there are areas here for improvement, I mean, you're not resigned. You're pushing forward with new goals, new plans. That's just great. And what I really liked here too is the reading and math, how that trend. It's almost as if the better the reading, or I should say, the better, but the higher we trend in reading, that has a direct comprehension aspect of it, where as you read more, you're learning to comprehend, and then that must translate into math. But I've not seen that elsewhere. It's great that I've seen that trend here. At the table here, I was surprised at home though too, but greater here. This evidence-based writing. I'd be an expert at my sixth grader, but
So why do I have to do that, Dad?
Yeah.
Show me evidence.
The days where you can just say to the parent, yeah, well, that's the way it is. Just no, they're not doing that here at Baylor. They're saying, well, Dad, what's your evidence? Like, what? And that's great. I mean, so it forces, I think, parents to be engaged when, I mean, I think you're finding that. People I speak to are just being engaged as a result of their kids. It's great. I think going through the, okay, I talked about the gains of math being interventions. I think, and your reception, just outstanding. When you've got teachers and staff and the kids who can come here and we can talk to and they can demonstrate all of what they're seeing on the SLO, all of what you're seeing in your report. I mean, we're seeing it, and that, I can't imagine a better evidence-based reception than to have the kids here doing that along with the teachers. So thank you much for that. And I guess in general, I'm very pleased, and I'm very pleased that you have plans to address any divots in the scale. And I'm pleased with the results I'm seeing here, though I know it's challenging with the Fargo and BPI for the data. However, I think Baylane is producing some really good higher level thinkers. So thank you very much to you and your staff for what you're doing.
Thank you, Chris.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to thank you for the circle around and the follow-up on what you're doing with the later start time. For myself, and I think probably the other board members, that was kind of a big thing that you asked for, and a big thing that we gave to you. So it's nice to know, get some follow back and some follow through on that. Like, okay, what are you doing with it? So that's good. That's good to hear, and I appreciate that. On one of the early slides, it says that more than a third of Baylane families have received positive contacts home. What is a positive contact? How would that go? What would a positive contact be?
So I'd say all of our staff, whatever their role, are making efforts to make positive contact with the family. So it might be a phone call about, if they were helping somebody in the cafeteria. It might be our math teacher that a student came in, got some additional learning to reset the math assessment and did really well. So an email, a postcard, a phone call. In our EBIS committee, which is called our BBC, has a third quarter plan to make sure every child in third quarter also receives more positive about students and their learning. It just might come in a different format.
And the wonderful part of that, Dean, is that that is connected squarely, which most of what Baylane is doing with the eye on the goal. And so that's a consistent with parent satisfaction, making sure that we're doing what we can do to make sure that parents feel satisfied with the service that we're providing, and positive phone calls home and emails and things like that help enhance that concert.
And one last question. What's going on with that red wall out there?
Well, it's in progress.
Okay.
And I guess I call it the feature wall, and we put our mission and vision on there, and also captured the theme that the BBC came up with of what paw print will you leave at Baylane. So it's about positive behavior, and the two spaces we want to feature academic learning and something about behavior and positives in that area. We're still brainstorming.
Okay.
But we wanted to get it taken care of this summer, and we said, if it takes till the end of the year, we'll do it right, but that's where it's going.
You certainly can't miss it on the way in.
Any other comments?
I'll just make one brief one. I like what I'm seeing on the scorecard. Steady improvement. You have to read a little bit more in the math because you kind of have to jump from year to year to see how the class is going more than how the grade is doing. So it looks like we're making progress, which is good. So that's a good thing, and I hope we continue doing that.
I want to thank you for the presentation and the dinner and having the students sit with us. The most encouraging part about everything you presented tonight is not only that it's showing data that it's moving progress, but you have student buy-in on this. From what Mr. Buckmaster said about his children quizzing him, and I'm not sure if that's just an excuse to get out of doing dishes or or what, but I had dinner with a fifth grader tonight in Granton, who was explaining one of his classes today. And as I said to him when he was done, I got more information from him about that one class than I did from 2 students going throughout the system. So 24 years of education here, and I typically get, how was school today? Good. But Grant gave me more information on one class than I got in totality from my other 2 children that went through. So whatever you're doing, they're buying into it, they're using it, and that's really what our goal is. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you, students. Drive safe.
Good luck with exams.
Yes. Okay, our second superintendent report item is academic and career plans, and as we've probably been dropping seeds along the way as to the requirement by the Department of Public Instruction to have an academic career planning process in place by the 2017-18 school year. And so 2 of the leads in that area for our system are Dr. Ted Gennerman and Christy Brooks, who are embedding, and one of our goals for this year is goal setting. And at the elementary level, it's all about goal setting and reading and monitoring those goals. K-4, and from middle school to high school, it is really developing this plan that engages it's really a plan that is to be led by students and supported and guided by adults around them. So we're in the phase of planning right now, and so Christy and Ted, you're going to take it over first. All right, thank you.
He's going to get our PowerPoint up and going. As Dr. Thompson mentioned, tonight Christy and I are going to spend some time introducing you to ACPs, which is a topic that I think similar to RTI over the next 5 to 7 years we'll be coming back to quite often. It's a big deal, but I think it holds great opportunity for us. So ACP refers to academic or career planning, but as we're talking and in some of the documents that you'll see, you may also see it referred to as ILP, which is an individualized learning plan. These are interchangeable terms, just so you know, as we're going through. So. That's all right, we're good.
And we all do have the PowerPoint here. Yeah, so we could scroll through that. And if you want to bring it up through Board Docs, that might be easier. It won't be we'll have to scroll through it, but do you know what I'm saying? If it's not coming up in Excel.
So believe it or not, I was kind of an unusual child.
I'm sorry, Ted. You want to hear about that?
Yeah. I don't.
For sure, I do. There's a lot of attachments here. It's the academic and career planning presentation. It's toward the bottom. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. How weird were you?
To call this person, like,
yeah.
As a fourth grade student, I knew that I wanted to be a psychologist. And despite pressure from all of my friends who were all going to be professional athletes, I know I was the cool one. My career aspirations were pretty clear. I mean, I really knew at that age wanted to do and where, what I wanted to be. And over the years, the type of psychologist that I wanted to become changed. So initially it was clinical and then industrial organizational. And I finally settled on school psychology. But, I was somebody who knew early on that this is really what I wanted to do. I was also really fortunate as well to have a parent, my dad, who went to college himself. And so from early on, when I was, the earliest conversations, when we talked about college, we talked about what college was like. And not that we had to go, there were 4 kids in our family, not that we had to go, but it was just sort of an expectation that we were all going to college. Those were the nature of the conversations that we had. And so we did things, we paid attention to our grades, and we talked about what that experience would be like. I was also incredibly fortunate that, while we didn't have a lot of money as kids, my dad was very planful, very thoughtful, and helped me pay for college because he recognized that getting out of school and having lots and lots of debt is a tough way to start as a young family man and all of that. So he was just very thoughtful. When I think back to my my high school experience, I recall the high school counselor asking me, so if you think you want to go to college, maybe you'll get my grades, wondering if that was such a great idea. But asking whether I planned to go to college, and I said yes, I was. And it was like, okay, well, let me know, if there's anything I can do to help. And that was sort of the extent to, those conversations. As I've started working on our district ACP planning, I've asked myself a number of times, if I hadn't had that direction, I hadn't had that support, a parent who's really knowledgeable about what it would take, I invested and really thoughtful about, making sure that we were having conversations about it, that I was excited about it, that the forms were filled out, that student loan information was done. Would I have gone to college? Would I have pulled it together? And my honest answer is, I don't know. I don't know that thinking back to the kind of, where my head was at, I don't know that I would have done that. I think long term, because I do believe that this is what I was meant to do, would have ended up here, but boy, it would have been kind of a crazy path, I think, to get here. In the many years since I graduated, schools have gotten better and more proactive in working with students and really trying to help make sure that that students are on a path. And so we expose students to career options related and the related educational requirements. Do that starting in late middle school and through high school. We have the conferencing that we do. We use Career Locker, which is a great program for sort of tracking student activities throughout the years. We also do a really good job of providing information to parents about applying for college, paying for college, scholarships. We do that through presentations. We put our presentations on the website. We include all the forms and stuff on the website. We try to be as parent-friendly as possible. We also develop a 4-year plan to help map out the coursework so that students know these are the classes I need to take based on their interest at a given time. It's a great start, but when you compare it to what's required in academic and career planning, the ACT process, it's limited in scope. So what is academic and career planning? It really consists of 2 parts. There's a process piece and there's a product piece. And it's important to pay attention to language in the process piece. It's an ongoing process to actively engage students. So it's an ongoing collaborative conversation. It is not as Kari Olson would say, a parachute drop or just a single presentation. It is the beginning of having conversations that occur on a regular basis throughout our curriculum, throughout their middle and high school years. It's also about active student engagement. It's not about something we give to them, but it's about the student really leading the charge, student really leading the process, and our support of the students through that process. And you can read through, so it's about developing understanding, students developing understanding of themselves, creating their vision of what they want to do in the future, figuring out what am I good at, what do I love to do, and then preparing a plan and figuring out how they're going to meet those goals. In terms of the product, it's the documents or the software that we use to track those activities over the years to kind of monitor the work that's being done by the student. So, first you can change it. When we look at a traditional four-year plan versus ACP, in a minute, Chrissy's going to share some of the details. So this is really a 30,000-foot level. Big difference is, our traditional four-year plans are really just product-based. It's versus a process and engaging with the student. Four-year plans, now again, this is statewide. I think we do a little bit better job here than they do in some places, but ACPs are for all students. We are talking about providing these activities and providing these experiences to level the playing field for all students. In a traditional four-year plan, it's not necessarily all students that are quite as involved. ACP, we're talking starting in 6th grade and going through high school. So we do some activities now more toward 8th grade, and then they get more focused in high school. With ACPs, it's starting in 6th grade and kind of developing. Again, Chrissy's going to talk in more detail about that. But that whole time, they're really going through the process of developing their thinking around what they might want to do based on what they're good at, what they're interested in. And I'm not going to read the rest of them to you, but you can see that it really is, I think the biggest takeaway is it's a process that's really collaboratively developed between the student and the parents and the school and the community. So why now? Why are we talking about this now? There's a variety of reasons. The first of which, and you can move next slide, is that it has become a statutory requirement. So it is now the law that as of 2017-18, every district needs to have a process in place for all students to develop an ACP, starting in grade 6 and going through grade 12. And again, DPI's role is to provide the specifics around what we're required to do, the tool that we'll use, and professional development and guidance. Now, obviously, when the state mandated RTI and mandate ACP, our job as a district is to figure out how we're going to get there, right? And I realized that it's hard to get excited about another largely unfunded mandate, especially one that has the scope and the demands that we see in ACP. And we are on the front end of learning about it, but it is daunting, actually, the scope. But the more I read the research on it, it's clear to me that we need to look past this is the required thing and really see it as a potentially awesome vehicle to help us achieve our district mission of every student learning, growing, and succeeding. I think it's going to be, if we implement it with fidelity, and we really go at it hard, I think it just has awesome potential, and that's certainly what we plan on doing. What's also exciting to me, I love RTI, but RTI, especially the side that's focused on our struggling learners, is really it's a weakness-based model. So we're identifying those weaknesses, we're remediating weaknesses, and that's good and that's important, and we need to do that. But ACPs really, it's for all students, and it is focused on identifying developing those relationships, identifying those strengths, building on those strengths, and really helping kids achieve their goals. And I think it's pretty exciting stuff. Next one. Thanks, Tristan. So again, this is at a state level, but so what are some of the concerns that have led to moving toward ACP? One is the idea that that the definition of college and post-secondary education has been narrowly defined. Also, not starting a college and career planning process early enough, and really not transitioning very well from. All right, so what are the things we learned about the students at the middle level, and then taking that to the high school level? Right now, there's not a great connection. In some places, there's no connection. And here, it's obviously a connection that can be greatly strengthened, but really taking that information, learning all along the way, and applying that learning. Another reason is our failure to learn the interests and strengths of all students, and then provide targeted mentoring and support to those students to help them get to where they want to be. It's just such a great opportunity for us. And also, as a school, sometimes we can be focused on helping students to become better students for the next grade, and not necessarily thinking about helping students become a really productive member of society, or really, really involved member of society. So this really helps us to focus not just on helping them become a better Algebra 2 student, but rather look at applying that knowledge to beyond their high school years. ACPs, the idea with ACPs also is that we thoughtfully use the curriculum to connect with student goals. And the result of not having done that, and again, it varies to different degrees based on district and demographics, but overall, student engagement that's lower than it would have to be. Graduation rates that are lower than they would have to be. Now, we have pretty good graduation rates, but in some cases, certainly that engagement is related to that. Lower success rates post-secondary. And again, we're a district that does pretty well with students after their first year of college, but in many places, I think the average is it like 50% of students that they don't go back after their first year. So we can be so focused on getting them in college, but have really prepared them to be successful throughout college and into their work world as well. And also, we do see this, lower rates than we should see for college applications and entrance for our special ed students, minority students, students of poverty. So it really is an opportunity to level the playing field. So, look at Christy. So it's to overcome the challenge, I think, in getting our team excited about the idea of, taking on this pretty big project. It could be seen just as an unfunded mandate. One of the things that we started off doing was we reviewed research. What does the research say about the value of ACPs beyond the fact that we have to do them? And in board docs, one of the documents that's in there is a lot more comprehensive. But these are some of the outcomes that are not just seen in a single study, that are seen over and over again in studies for districts that fully engage in this process. Increased student motivation and engagement. Kids more ready to talk about in their career decision making. Better understanding of post-secondary options. And again, I won't read them all to you, but it's exciting stuff, and it's really a great opportunity for us. We also, as part of that, looked at what does the research say about those most critical components that we need to include in our process to make sure that we get these outcomes. So that's another piece that's in your packet. It's not part of the slide, but just to let you know, too, that we're really trying to get clear on what are those really important aspects that we need to make sure that we include in ours so that we get these kinds of outcomes. Next one. And then finally, it's just a slide from DPI. The idea, strong academic prep is important. Obviously, it's very important, but it isn't everything. And schools have an opportunity now, frankly, an obligation, to help all students connect on a really individual basis with their strengths and help guide them toward their achieving their own hopes and dreams, goals. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christy, and I'll switch places. Okay.
You'll need to have a mic though, so either use this one or.
So one of the key elements that make ACPs so powerful is building relationships that already exist, but just really solidifying them between students, schools, parents, and the community, but doing that systematically in order to prepare students for life beyond high school, and providing more opportunities for students to learn more about themselves and their options with supportive adults. The focus will be for whole school implementation, and the real purpose behind that is to build mentoring relationships between students and teachers. And some of the research that Ted touched on earlier indicates that career readiness drives college readiness. Sometimes we look at it just reverse. We think that college readiness prepares career readiness, but really the research suggests that when students have a focus and know what their goals are, that they become more motivated in enhancing the academics. Having parental and community involvement results in a number of things according to the research, such as career search confidence and advocacy, academic confidence, connection with peers, management of stress, academic motivation and relevance, and interpersonal connections. ACPs begin with students understanding and knowing themselves as people and as learners, and then exploring areas of interest, setting academic and career goals, and then the plans to accomplish them. And part of the process even includes progress monitoring those goals on an annual basis, and then understanding what they need to do next in order to be successful, both from the transition from middle school to high school and then high school to college or a career. Facilitation of career readiness enables youth to have a plan for how post-secondary education will enable them to achieve their career and life goals. And to do all of these things, it's kind of broken up into 4 components. So it's the 4 stages of the ACPs. Specific details about these 4 components can be found in the PDFs attached to board docs. So there's a specific PDF that describes the curriculum, if you will, related to each of these 4 stages. But to briefly summarize them, the first step relates to students taking career interest assessments, personal interest assessments, identifying their learning style and communication style, learning about the goal-setting process, identifying their strengths, and understanding financial literacy. The second component is to explore careers from pathways that are related to their interests. And part of that is also learning about the salary, education levels needed, and benefits of those careers, but also to learn employability skills, how to build resumes, interview skills, and what post-secondary education and training might be necessary for careers of interest. One thing to note, and I think as a parent myself, I would be a little worried that students will be picking a career at a young age, but it's not really about them picking a career, but rather that students have the skills necessary to analyze themselves and information about themselves in order to explore and learn what is possible. And during this stage, the exploration stage, some of the activities that students will be participating in relates to mock interviews or real interviews with employers, career-related guest speakers, workplace visits, job shadowing, career fairs or career days, and hands-on career projects and career-focused mentoring. The third component here relates to students' plans and how they're going to connect their self and career exploration to an educational plan. So it's looking at what they're interested in and what they may want to do with what does the school offer and what sort of opportunities do we have within the school curriculum to help enforce and reinforce those interests. And some of the curriculum related in that component is job search skills, youth development, leadership, the soft skills about employment, and work-based learning. The last stage is referred to the GO stage, and the GO stage is one that we come back to many times, but it really just refers to the execution of their plan and their goals, and coming around those goals and reviewing and refining them yearly. Also, there's conferencing relating to goal setting and then the attainment of the goals. So we're just going to end this with
We're here today to talk about academic and career planning.
a quote from Tony Evers, which he has technical difficulties, so I'm just going to pull it up this way.
And I can think back when I was in 6th grade, I think the last thing I wanted to think about was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I was more interested in the very next day. Well, the world has changed, clearly, and that's what's very exciting about our new efforts around academic and career planning. It's part of our agenda to make sure that every child is a graduate ready for college and career. The thing I really like about it, it really gives students some more control over their future. They can start thinking about it. Will sixth graders say, yes, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon and that's going to happen? Unlikely. The fact of the matter is, if people start thinking about the future, what careers are available, and how we connect those careers with what courses are taken, then it's going to work, and students will be able to systematically move towards a great place to be. So it's important for us as adults to support this academic and career planning process. It's going to begin in the 2017-18 school year, not too far down the road. And in the meantime, we're going to be doing pilots. We really want districts to start being engaged. And I can tell you just from my work around the state with the business community, they're absolutely jazzed about this. And I think this is a really good way to make their partnership even more meaningful than it is right now. So again, please join in the conversation around academic and career planning. This next year is a conversation year, a pilot year. A lot of you already do this sort of thing. So how can we make it better? How can we reach out to the business community and make it a full-fledged effort to make sure our kids are college and career ready? Thank you.
And that kind of just leads into what our plan for this year is, as we heard Tony here today. ACPs don't take effect until the 2017-18 school year. And even then, as we view some of the curriculum related to ACPs, it will be likely a 3 to 5 year rollout process. There simply just is too much content between having to review our current schedules, our current course offerings, graduation requirements, some of the pieces that are required through ACP. We want to really make sure that we study what the best approach is going to be and be fiscally responsible and make it most meaningful for students. So we're going to be thoughtful in the way that we approach it and take small steps towards accomplishing all of the goals. So even though the 2017-18 school year is when we have to begin them, the state does recognize that it is going to be a multi-year process for full implementation, and their request is that we have a plan in place as how that will unfold. So for this year, what our goal is to identify needs in team members and review what best practices we have, establish our current and desired state into a gap analysis between the two, and then draft our initial implementation plan. And that'll lead into next year where we kind of look at our current schedule, and we know that with the content that we're talking about, we cannot do things the same today and accomplish what we need to with ACP. So we're going to have to be thoughtful about how we incorporate and embed our curriculum together here.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions from the board on ACPs? More to come. Steve.
So I understand that this is mandated. I struggle with this. Part of me says, what's wrong with letting a kid in middle school be a kid? You knew what you wanted to do in 4th grade. I didn't know. It took me a while to find myself. I ended up there, but I found myself. And while this would seem to be great for the kid that knows what he or she wants to do or wants to be, it would be awesome for that. I wonder how this fits in, though, to our mission of every student learning, growing, and succeeding, because every kid doesn't know what they want to be or what they want to do. And there are some that won't know for quite some time after they get out of high school. So I struggle with this for some of our population. I think some of our population needs to figure it out on their own, at their own pace. And I'm not quite sure how this fits in, again, to our mission for some of the kids.
Oh, yeah, it's a great question, a great comment. I would say, as Christy went through those 4 points, it really is, it's not about pigeonholing a student at middle school that they need to follow a certain path. It really is about helping students begin to explore even what options are available. And so, the thought isn't you know, by the time we're in 8th grade, we're going to have really tight, and I realize I told my own goofy story, not to say that this is typical or even desired, but just that recognizing that kids are in all different places with that, but it benefits all students to start to see the relevance in what they're interested in, generally what they're interested in, and what potential careers are available in that. And then, you know, our role then is to start helping make some connections so they can ask more questions. It's certainly not about, you know, getting them on a path and putting cement down and saying, oh, this is the path that you're going. It's really about asking questions and helping the student just kind of explore to begin with. As they get towards high school, it does get more specific. But again, it's not the idea wouldn't be to force anything in particular, but you know, most students, the research would suggest pretty clearly, benefit from at least having the conversation and the consideration. But I certainly understand what you're saying about that.
So it's kind of expanding that, as Ted mentioned, that most students right now are influenced greatly by their family, their parents. Did they go to college, or what career path did they go? And now it's indicating schools, your role, you have a strong role in making sure that students understand what their next step could be, possibly be. They still have to explore and find themselves and all of that, but it does, as Ted mentioned a number of times, really create a level playing field for kids who don't have a family environment, possibly, that would support exploration of different careers. Emily shared at dinner her interest in going into environmental science and the different careers that she might be interested in pursuing, you know, whether it's, you know, water or different energy sources, and asking 7th and 8th graders, do you even know that those careers exist? And they didn't, you know, so it's just expanding the view of what you can be. It's not just a teacher, nurse, or, you know, the people you see, but all kinds of different careers and pathways and things. So it's all about exploration.
And I get that part, and I agree with that part of it, but Dean's points are valid. I mean, I don't want a 7th or 8th or even 9th or 10th grader, for that matter, or even a senior, that doesn't know what they want to do with their life, thinking that, oh my gosh, I haven't started this path that, you know, everyone else has. You know, we're not communist states where we tell, you know, 6th graders that, you know, okay, from here on you're gonna be a welder. You work towards that the rest of your life. I mean, last year at the convention speech, I pulled a quote from I don't remember the song, but it's one of my favorite quotes. It says, "Don't worry if you don't know what you want to do with your life. Some of the most interesting college graduates don't know what they want to do with their lives. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't." And that's true. I mean, I just don't want these kids thinking they got to, you know, plan the rest of their lives too early. So while I like the idea of having the options put out there so they can pick them, I just don't want to present it in such a way that they feel that they have to pick it. So.
And Rick, if I could just comment, I had the same concerns, and as I'm learning more about it, I'm realizing it's really more about making school relevant. You know, why are we learning this? Because these skills are necessary, and it's about exposure. So it's okay if you don't know, but that you have the knowledge and the background of what the options could look like.
And that path I'm fine. I just want to make sure that that's the path we follow.
Well, thank you. Looking forward to further updates as we move along the path to implementing ACPs.
And speaking of following paths and work towards things, Laura needs to get to studying, so we're going to interrupt the superintendent's report and let her give hers so she can get out of here.
So I had the week of January 4th. The girls basketball team won the Cedarburg tournament over Winter Break. They defeated Plymouth 51-50, and then went on to beat Cedarburg 53-37 in the championship game. The girls were also named the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel High School Team of the Week. And then the varsity wrestling team placed 7th in the Division I at the 58-team bi-state tournament in lacrosse. Leading the way were senior Grant Bocconi and junior Jordan McGuire, who both placed 3rd. And then also placing was junior Tom Wittheiser, who finished 10th. And then the week of January 11th, the POMS team competed at the Badger State competition. The team took 2nd in their POMS routine, first in the hip hop and jazz, and second overall. On that Friday, the boys varsity basketball team defeated Kettle Moraine 67-56. That Thursday, the boys varsity wrestling team defeated Kettle Moraine 52-16. And then that weekend, the cheer team competed at Wisconsin Lutheran College. The four-man red took first and the four-man black took second. The team also received first in cheer dance and third in their traditional routine. And then this past week, the varsity and JV gymnastics team traveled to defending state champion Arrowhead Saturday night, and both teams came away with a victory. Senior Sam Balsrack took second on beam with an 8.925. Freshman Crystal Nelson took fourth, and junior Abigail Machon took fifth. On the floor, Abigail was fourth with a 9.05, and senior Jesse Kaiser took fifth. Last Saturday, the varsity cheer team competed at Greendale's I-Cheer competition. The four-man black group, consisting of Morgan Green, Nicole North, Mackenzie Warda, and Emma Volsky, took third, and the four-man red group of Catherine Laverick, Katie Slavin, Kristen Henneberry, and Carly Summer took first. The team also took third in both their cheer dance routine and their traditional routine. And then in addition to that, the MHS Sparkle cheer team competed in their first competition, and they did a fabulous job. The past weekend, the ski team competed at Little Switzerland against Whitefish Bay, Castle Memorial, and Menominee Falls. The girls varsity team took first, with Riley Hendren taking first, Hunter Bindis third, Isabel Sviatoslavsky fourth, and the JV team took third. The boys varsity took fourth, and the JV took second, with Sam Hastings taking third and Quinn Davis taking fourth. And then the MHS varsity debate team placed fourth at the Sheboygan North tournament on Saturday. The varsity team of Amanda Babak and Anna Lee recorded 2 wins. Anna Lee received third place speaker award, and both Amanda and Anna will be competing in the Wisconsin State debate tournament this coming weekend. And then last Friday, the boys varsity team defeated Waukesha South 67-53. And then coming up, Jim Wan, the famous hypnotist, is coming to the PAC Saturday, February 6th. The proceeds of this performance benefit the Muskego FBLA, and tickets are on sale now for $10. On Saturday, January 30th, a free ACT practice will be offered to students at MHS. And then on Friday, the girls basketball team competes against Waukesha North at 7:30. And then tomorrow is Nikki for Nikki Day. The student's body is encouraged to wear pink, Nikki's favorite color, or Disney gear to support her. At lunch, the students have had the opportunity to donate money and write Nikki encouraging messages. And then Fox 6 News is also coming to the building to cover Nikki's story. And then news from today, Muskego Young Life is bringing donuts for all the students tomorrow morning to help them get through the family.
Any questions for Laura?
Sure. Are you going to take advantage of the hypnotist and get up there?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm planning to go on track with you. I've never seen it. It's just for.
I want to hear about you being up on that stage.
I'm sure you're welcome to go, Mr. Ryder. Have you made any decisions on next year yet?
99% sure I'm going to go on lacrosse.
Good. Congratulations. Good school.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Good luck this week.
Going back to superintendent's report.
Never-ending report. Okay, the third item is the reauthorization of ESEA at the federal level. Will have some impact on the state level, and then, of course, that impact will be seen somewhere down the line here in Muskego, Norway. So Christy has just a little brief summation of some of the areas that have stayed the same and some areas that will likely see some changes.
So the reauthorization is also known as Every Student Succeeds Act, and we're abbreviating it as ESA. It represents significant change from prior law, and basically to summarize that change, the degree of authority at the state level has increased, and so we see this as a positive. There's really five key areas in which those changes are taking place. The first is report cards. That would be the school and district report cards. They're still required for each state, but Wisconsin controls the content as long as it meets federal requirements. There'll likely be very little change as our current report card already meets many of the conditions. The second is academic standards, and they are still required, and there's no change related to academic standards for Wisconsin. The third is testing. Testing is still required, and it's Wisconsin's current practice, so there will be no change with testing. For school improvement, Support for low-performing schools is required, and Wisconsin will be able to dictate which schools and what the steps will be for those schools at the state level. And the last real big change is educator effectiveness. Currently, Wisconsin law requires educator effectiveness, and it remains unchanged. However, it is no longer a requirement by federal law.
Any questions? And there's a letter from the Department of Public Instruction attached to also some additional details. Okay, hearing none. The last item is master planning. Just two items. One, what's attached is a draft of some communication efforts that we met last week to articulate some areas that we want to make sure we keep track of and plan for. And so that's a pretty comprehensive list in that grid. If there are things that you feel are missing or areas that you would like to see us explore more, feel free to let us know that. The other thing, as we've been communicating to different groups, the last group that we went to present at was Tudor Oaks last week. And we are presented with the question frequently about what would we be doing with the proceeds from the Muskego Elementary and Test Corners. And I just want to share with you to make sure that this is where the board, that we're appropriately responding, that the administration is, that we would be continuing to put those funds toward the master planning efforts by either reducing the debt or addressing maintenance or capital needs identified through the MPC process. If the board's comfortable with that, we'll continue to have that as our communication, and we'll put that, I'm sorry. Sure. It states that the proceeds would be put toward the master planning efforts by either reducing the debt or addressing maintenance or capital needs that were identified through the MPC process. So that would allow the board then to either pay down debt, which actually wouldn't come right away, right, Julie? That option, or would?
It would depend. We could use it to pay down current debt that exists, or we could put that money into our debt service fund balance and utilize that when the bonds become callable in the future, any new funds.
Which would be more related to potential projects related to the referendum. And then the other option would be that we could utilize it for other projects that the Master Planning Committee identified and the board has prioritized, whether it be, projects related to Lakeview or the high school or things like that. It would be tied to the master planning efforts. Everybody comfortable? Because then we'll be putting that into our question and answer frequently.
43 million to project costs.
2 million?
About 2 million.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. So if we decided to use the proceeds of the sale for something else, means that 2 million was not replenished in the fund balance. So my only concern is that people know that it's going back into the master planning process and not related to.
I think it's important that we're clear on that, because the board purposefully said that, okay, the $45 million project, we're going to bond for 43, use 2 million of fund balance with the idea that we can put that back in, but essentially that 2 million was, we pulled that number out from, that's what we were conservatively being told we would get for those properties.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to know that, we're going to let people know that we're using the proceeds for that for this current project, because we kind of are, we just fronted the money for it ahead of time.
So then would you like to have us change that comment to specifically state that it would be rolled into the fund balance to address it, or?
I guess I would
almost
like to see something that says that you're levying $2 million less than costs.
Our plans for the current bonding includes the sale of those buildings. If we don't sell them, our fund balance will cover that. Because, I don't know, how's that?
I would just say our current plan is to proceeds of the sale go to the reduction of the.
Is that for this project?
Yeah,
I mean,
I wouldn't add.
but
yeah,
the only thing,
doesn't
the only
have-
part, yeah, well, yeah, true. Yeah, you don't want to do that. The only part that may be confusing then is if they looked at 43 million and think that we're going to take that and reduce to 43 million. It's not, it's reducing the 45 that the project costs.
It's hard to.
I know,
predict what
it's one of
people will interpret, but
yeah.
That's not bad if they interpret it.
I like the way, my initial thought is I like the way you phrase it, because it's going to go back into
More than likely, we're going to pull it out again and put it in facilities anyway.
It's going to go back into facilities somewhere.
Because we have to do something with those other problems, and we're not going to ignore those.
Right.
Because that money could sit, if we're very specific with where that money is going to go, it could sit for a while.
Right.
Before we could actually utilize it.
Yes, sir.
Just make a suggestion.
Sure.
The way you word it says you're gonna do almost anything with it. Okay, you can put it to the fund, or you can put it to some of these other projects. And what I'm hearing you saying is that you're concerned about putting to other projects because you sort of led to believe that this $2 million is gonna be used to kind of help offset the loss of fund balance. So if you put it back in fund balance, you can still take it and use it anytime you want, or wherever you want to use it for, right? So why confuse the issue by talking about having having it be available for other needs? Just say you're going to put it back in fund balance, everybody feels comfortable, put it back there, and you can still use it whenever you want to. Right?
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but I wouldn't want people to think then that they're going to use that to do something frivolous or silly. Because if it
I think that might be an overthinking. That part might be an overthinking. I just want to be clear that, and I can't think of a way to. The problem with this, it's almost not too complicated, but it is almost. It's not a 30-second soundbite where people can just absorb it. I mean, what we did is we took we're taking the money and we're using it to borrow less, but to guarantee it, we fronted the money for that already. We pre-sold it already to ourselves essentially. But how do you explain that?
I'm fine with returning to the fund balance.
I think Chuck's got the simple answer. If they want more details, explain.
Yeah, I mean,
Put $2 million out of fund balance.
Scribble the list down, but or not. I mean,
Right.
that's yeah.
So I'm hearing replenished fund balance would be the appropriate way to respond, and then provide additional information related to it was a $45 million project, and we fronted ourselves $2 million. Okay, everybody comfortable with that?
Sure.
Thanks, Chuck.
Nice suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and these things, I mean, it's not like, I was at this Tudor Oaks one. These conversations or questions usually aren't, we give them an answer and there's follow up on it always. So it'll come, we'll work our way through it. But I mean,
and just a comment on this timeline and schedule here. I don't envy you in the position that administration is in, to a lesser degree us. We've really got our work cut out for us here. Because to Mr. DuPont's point earlier, the indifference that we have, it befuddles me. I had an old timer call it the sin of indifference. And I don't understand the sin of indifference. So I don't know if we're hitting the mark or if we're not hitting the mark. So that's where the communication comes in. So get your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I'll do.
There's something to say on that, but
thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions, remarks? Yes, sir.
Just a question in the paper. Is it possible timeline where you break ground to the middle school in March to be ready to go in September?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I wondered about that too when I saw it.
I was like, really? You did it in 6 months? Yeah. Maybe at Costco or something.
Not a quote from us.
Okay, is that timeline?
No.
The 2018-19.
Their year, she's missing a year in there.
Yeah,
she's off by 12 months.
Little ambitious.
It's gotta be approved first.
And that was my whole quote for her last week when she was pushing me for quotes. We haven't approved nothing yet. All right, moving on.
That completes the superintendent's report. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, I know.
All right, moving on to other reports. President's report. Nothing much. The convention is this week. I'm planning attending. I would, if you have free time, I highly recommend going down there, seeing. There's some different breakout sessions. There's some interesting things for that. Walking around the convention floor, giving moral support to our delegate, as well as our WASBA board member here.
Got all my positions laid out.
Excellent. Perfect.
I look
We
forward
want
to
a
your
summary of
report.
that by midnight tonight.
I got a reminder in here too. As well.
Yeah, I know. That's my next thing. As well as reminding everyone that please get your surveys for the dates filled out by the 30th. So far, one person has, and it wasn't me.
Good.
No, or else I do it because I'll forget if I don't do it right.
Well, good. So if I go online and read it right now, I know it's yours.
Read it.
Thanks for. Well, yeah, but I can't see who it is.
Press on the board against what it is.
All right. Moving on to clerk's report. That'd be you, acting clerk.
Okay. As the acting clerk, the deadline to file declarations of candidacy and campaign registration statements was 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 5th, 2016. 2 seats are up for the election. 2 incumbents, Rick Bifalski and Brett Hyde, declared their candidacy prior to the deadline for filing. There were no new candidates. A primary will not be necessary. A drawing for a named position on the ballot was conducted on Friday, January 8th, 2016. Ballot order is as follows. Brett Hyde, Rick Bifalski. Hence the acting clerk's report.
Thank you.
Whoever drew the names, good job. Thank you.
They went alphabetical. All right, moving on. Any other board member reports?
I'd just like to add, I'll be down at the WASB convention. That's a big surprise. But just to remind everybody, I mentioned this last year, there is an app that you can go out and get specifically for the convention. And I was going through it a couple days ago to highlight the ones the breakout sessions I'd like to attend. And there's a number of them about community engagement and getting the message out for things like referendum or other things that are going on in the community. So I highly encourage you to either check the calendar out or download the app and go through. And even if you just come down for a couple breakout sessions, a lot of times they give you a lot of really good information, stuff we had not thought about doing. Thank you.
Real quickly, I was at the girls' basketball game on Friday, and Coach Hertz is very big on giving back to the community and teaching his girls to give back to the community. And they had their free throw marathon fundraiser type thing, and for all of the levels of Warrior basketball, and the girls raised over $7,500.
Okay.
And they gave it to a former player who had a rough go of it, battled with leukemia, Sammy Schneiker, and it was very touching. And she turned around and gave half of that money away to Children's Hospital.
Awesome.
So it was very, very nice, and Coach Hertz does a great job of having his girls give back to the community.
Yeah, it's a great. I'm not sure the boys do it as well. They used to do the free throw contest. I remember a number of kids. My sister didn't realize that they make so many free throws, and and promised my son $5 per free throw, and they shoot 100 free throws, and he missed 2. She had a large check to write out.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. All right. Any other board member reports? Moving on to public forum. This is your opportunity for you, the public, to speak to us about any operations of the school or building. almost looks like he's going to stand it.
I just say, when you,
Could you stand in front of the microphone so those watching at home can hear you?
what you do with the court program is try to educate the public about it. I think just make sure you're as honest as you can be. And I'm thinking about the 20 cents per thousand for the assessed value is what the increase is going to be. I mean, there's some people who know that the debt is coming off in 4 years, and that if the debt went away, they'd be saving, I don't know what the number would be, but it's something more than 20 cents, right? So this whole thing is really costing 20 cents plus whatever the debt reduction amount will go down. And there are enough people around that know that, understand that, I think, and when I kind of talk to people, they say, yeah, well, what about the debt going away? And so I think if you just sell it as, hey, this is only going up 20 cents, you're kind of forgetting that people know that it would be going down by 80 cents or $1, once the current debt is gone. And so just make sure you're open and honest about everything and not try to, kind of slide it through with having the numbers show as being low when in reality the old debt is going to go on. So just good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It really is going from a $300 a month car payment to a $320 a month car payment. You still have that car payment you're making, which has gone up slightly. So, right. So, valid point. Thank you. And I just broke our own rule by commenting on it. So that's all right. Moving on to item 6, resolution action item 6A, open enrollment space designation.
Motion to approve the open space designations for the 2016-2017 school year as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
Jeff, why don't you go ahead and just give a summary of the analysis that was done and what we're looking at as far as the 16-17 open enrollment seats.
Sure. So in board docs, you can see multiple items that I've placed in there. In Appendix A, Appendix B, a pamphlet from DPI related to open enrollment, and also a memo describing what we're recommending. So really in preparation for this evening's recommendation around open enrollment seats for next year, we thoroughly and completely reviewed projected enrollment for next year, and also looked at staffing projections based upon enrollment in order to support how many seats we would have available for next year. As the memo prepared for you this evening states, we currently serve 146 open enrollment students in our system. There'll be 12 that will be exiting this year from our system as a result of them graduating from Muskego Norway schools. If you reference Appendix A in board docs, that is actually titled 2016-17 open enrollment seats. That particular table will outline for you how many seats and how many spaces we have available at each respective school, and then in red I've identified how many seats are available per grade level. So when you take a look at that particular document, there are 14 additional seats, or 14 seats that we'd be offering K4, which could potentially net 2 additional open enrollment seats when you consider the 12 that are graduating. And that would bring in an additional revenue of about $13,278. Furthermore, what's not identified in Appendix A are an additional 11 4-year-old kindergarten seats, which are funded at 60% each. That could bring in an additional revenue of $43,813 for a potential net revenue increase of $57,091. I've also explained in the memo that given current caseloads for special education teachers in our system, we do not have any seats available given the projections for next year. So really the recommendation that we're seeking is for the board to approve the number of 2016-17 open enrollment seats as presented.
So Jeff, if I'm looking at this correctly, we're saying we have no additional spaces in our high school next year for open enrollment?
Based upon our projected enrollment and class sizes and staffing, that is correct.
Since this the first time we haven't had open spaces in high school?
Well, typically what we do, because of, some unknown ninth grade, students coming in from parochial schools, we may project a certain number. We put them on a waiting list, and we'll come back to the board typically for both kindergarten and high school in the summer, and indicate that now that we have a firm understanding of where we're at with enrollment, we can accept cases. So, but this is consistent with last year.
Okay. So, with the wait list, are they put in an order? I know the wait list, or the kids who are selected are randomly drawn, correct?
Right, based on how many seats we have, yes.
Okay, so when we have a wait list, do we draw a pecking order, or do we have a pile and then randomly draw them out as we
Actually, we changed last year per the policy. Now we actually draw, we don't put them in order of here are all the kindergartners, here are all the first graders. Why don't you, Dart, explain how we randomly draw for open enrollment seats?
Randomly draw first for the grade level that we're going to draw from. And then, for instance, maybe fifth grade comes up as the first grade level that we're going to draw from.
Okay.
Then we randomly select names from the fifth grade group. If there's a sibling also applying from that same family, say seventh grade, then if there's a spot available, the seventh grader would be placed. That's according to the state regulation.
Okay.
If there is no space available for that seventh grader, then that's the first child that goes on the wait list for the seventh grade. And that's how it progresses through each grade level. And we do have to give preference first to siblings of currently attending open enrollees who are applying, and to kids who have recently moved out of the district and wish to stay. So those kids, the kids that have moved out of the district and have properly applied for open enrollment, they are guaranteed a spot. But the siblings, again, go to a wait list or to the first grade level position available for them.
So why do we?
And after that, then we randomly draw from the remaining applications.
Why do we randomly draw what grade you're picking from first? Because if you have an opening in, say, the high school, say we filled it all. Now we decide we come up with a wait list, and come late spring or whenever we determine, okay, we do have 2 extra spaces at the high school. Wouldn't you just go to the high school, or am I misreading?
Yeah, we would.
Okay.
We would.
Okay.
After the drawing is done, it's solidified, and then if we, as we go through the summer, we determine, oh, we actually have first grade spots too, we would go back to that wait list. Who's the next person on the list?
So that wait
Yep.
list is then
It's
predetermined.
established.
It's established
Yep.
by then. Okay.
It's established.
That was my main question.
And we draw by grade levels because that's what DPI says we shall do.
Well, okay. Draw by grade level, and then we don't have room there. It just doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Or when we draw, or when somebody who is in the district moves out and wants to continue to go to school in the district, is that for, are they allowed to do that for the length of their high school career? Or
If they have applied for and are accepted for open enrollment, actually those kids now, the initial step is that they would apply for a tuition waiver when the next open enrollment application period comes around. The tuition waiver is a bridge to open enrollment. So that gives them a temporary ability to pay. And then when the next open enrollment application period comes, they must apply. But if they do apply, then they will be guaranteed a spot.
all the way
All the way through. Once a student is open enrolled, they are open enrolled unless the parent would for some reason withdraw them from the district and then want to come back at a later date, then they have to start all over again. But if the student remains, he can continue to be a child that's approved for 4 K, potentially can attend as an open enrollment all the way to the 12th grade.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Jeff, looking at your detailed analysis by grade and middle school, we have a little, that looks like we're way overpacked. And I'm looking at like, Bay Lane, grade 5, we have 173 projected students. And our EL ideally would be about 150, which means we're almost at another level for another teacher. Do we not have room to get another teacher in?
Well, that's based upon current staffing that we have right now. So we will continue to work through staffing models in the next month to 2 months to determine where the needs are as far as additional. So we're still working through that.
Okay. It almost looks like we need another teacher right there. That would be 2 more spots, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure. 7th grade, we might want to look at that. It's Bay Lane has, is that what you're talking about, the 7th grade?
The 5th grade.
Oh, 5th grade.
Bay Lane.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay.
I think the only other thing that I would just bring to our attention is taking a look at the asterisk with Mill Valley first grade. We did not have 9 seats placed available at Mill Valley because currently, as we take a look at staffing for next year at Mill Valley, we'd be looking to reduce the section at Mill Valley. So strategically, what we're doing is saying, rather than saying we're going to have 2 teachers at Mill Valley next year, and then just have that be a 1-year plan, we're looking to have that be longer term.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Passes unanimously. Moving on to 6B, 4K provider contracts.
Motion to approve 4K provider contracts with Discovery Days, Muskego, Discovery Days, Wood Lake, Kids Campus, Little VIP, and Mary Linsmeyer with a per student increase of 1.62% or $51 per student.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I've got a question on this. What's our, where are we with the revenues for student and staff costs? As far as like, what do we get?
For revenue limit, we receive about just over $10,000 per student. So for a 4K student, it's about 60% of that.
So right now we're paying, what is that, 3,100, so we're getting what per student?
You mean above and beyond?
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're hitting that, we're not.
We're getting around 6,000 per student to the state. We're spending 31.
60%, because we usually do around 10.
Correct.
Okay.
so it still supports our K-12 mission.
It does, yes.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
so the increase you're asking for, that mirrors what revenue went up?
What we were providing for the increase in our budget.
Okay.
The reason we did that this year is because we did not give an increase last year. We didn't know what the budget was going to be at the start of the contract season, and so we kept costs remaining the same because we didn't know what our revenues would change. But now we do, and so we feel comfortable with that increase.
So what are they? Trying to get out of. So I don't doubt what
Sure.
here. I'm just trying to weigh in. So the increase is driven by what? Maybe that's what I said.
So our 4K providers are the ones responsible for hiring the staff members, so we don't employ those staff members.
Right.
And so our goal is to help them continue to attract and retain staff for our 4K students, and they do have a hard time doing that. One thing we are looking at, and it's too soon for this year, but for next year, is looking to put into the contract a minimum salary that we would like to require them to pay because there is some differences among the different providers as to what the compensation looks like. And so some of them do have large turnover and some of them don't. So our goal is to give them an increase to help support increased costs in programming as well as compensation.
Things like this, I'm just, get to the operating costs. So,
sure.
I mean, this is now, so are we getting more back from the state, or are we covering, do we know, I guess, the increase?
Yes, we are getting more back from the state.
So is what we're getting back from the state covered the increase? So it does. So this would not have an impact on operating costs going forward?
Correct.
Okay. Because the revenue stream come in offsets the increase, so 4K would not be an element that would affect the operating costs of, going forward in the schools.
No, based on the numbers that we're receiving from the state for the 4K program, we have the opportunity not only to support the 4K program, but to support our K-12 programming as well. So it's not taking away from anything in order to provide that increase.
Right, as long as the increase from the state offsets, that's thank you.
In the future, if we had the space, would it be financially beneficial to bring the program in-house?
I'd like to really put those numbers, in very rough conceptual thoughts. It would. I mean, we'd be hiring the staff, so we'd take on that staffing cost. But based on, what we're getting from the state, if we looked at just what we got for our 4K program and that 60%, we could support and probably have a cost control program for 4K in-house.
But we wouldn't have as much. It wouldn't be as financially beneficial for us to have these in-house overall, do you think? I mean, pulling them in-house, putting them at our pay.
If we had the space available and we weren't increasing spaces and results, but we'd really have to look at the numbers. We haven't done that yet. When I started, it was the conversation that we always wanted to keep that community-based programming, so we really haven't looked at the numbers.
That may be something that you might want to look at in the future.
Frankly, I'm surprised the state hasn't pulled funding yet for 4K.
Altogether.
Yeah,
I'm
just waiting for the day when this becomes an unfunded thing, again, that we get stuck with if it's in-house.
Well, then we drop it.
At least now.
That's why it's out of the house. That's why it's out of the house. So
Yeah,
we can't drop it.
and I thought that was a wise move on the board, but I'm actually amazed this has not been cut from state yet. But I really expect that this is going to be a target.
Yeah, with now almost, 95% of the school districts in the state of Wisconsin have 4K. It's a tremendous.
The dollar amount is that's just a low-hanging fruit for state to cut.
Well, and the only reason 95% of the schools have it is because it's financially beneficial.
Right.
I mean, there's a huge chasm between those of us who don't see the long-term benefits of 4K versus the ones that do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we have it. I'm glad it hands out. And I'm glad that it's separate, that the costs are easy to track. So if it
They're
was
very
to
easy
get
to
cut,
track, yeah.
it's not, the effect is not on our staff, it's not on our teachers, it's cut. But I'm just cautious about bringing this in-house, given the,
Well, we can do the analysis just to look at it from a budget perspective in the future, just to see what it looks like.
I don't know if it'd be so much as they specifically say 4K, but I think they might just say we're not funding you anymore. And it may get to a point where it's no longer beneficial, we need to cut it.
No, I think if they do it, they cut it, they're gonna specifically say that counts for 4K, don't count.
Yeah,
that might be the case with it.
Okay.
Although we'll
All right,
have
thank you.
different cases.
Moving on to item 6. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Not moving on. All those in favor of the 4K provider contracts and the increase, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 6C, Administrative Guidelines, Series 8000.
Motion to approve Administrative Guidelines, Series 8000.
So moved.
Same as it has been in the past. It's the first reading. Second reading will go on to consent agenda. Is there any specific questions or anything administration needs to add to what we have on this?
Made no changes.
Is there more of a housekeeping way? Is there an easy way of sticking a link into board docs that we can click on it that would go to the policies and pull out those versus having to go to policy? I mean, quite
Your
honestly,
construction,
it's
yeah.
a pain.
Yeah. And actually,
and I'm guessing they don't get looked at as much as they should.
yeah, it is quite laborious. I
Yeah.
get it. I do. In the future, what will happen now that we are
Now that we've approved
fully,
them and
yeah.
haven't looked at them.
No, but we, every 6 months, we'll be bringing forward revisions for policies, but we'll be bringing them as a pack, and they will just be loaded in actually a PDF format to these, because all of our policies will then be moved to action already. So we're not going to make changes to a live document. Right now, they're all under consideration, so that's why we did it the way we did. But moving forward, you'll have, here's the policy in a PDF format. So it will be different, and
Okay.
I think it's easier for
Yeah.
you to find.
I don't like this way. That's your one.
Yeah, it is.
That being said, back to the actual item. Is there any questions or comments? This is the first of 2 readings. You'll have it at the next board meeting under consent agenda, which can always be pulled out from there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 6D, policy revisions. I'm sorry. 6E, middle school program guide.
That was.
No, that was right. It was. I apologize. 6D, policy revisions, series 8000.
Motion to approve administrative guidelines, series 8000, as listed. So, others.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Same as last one. We'll be coming back again.
I have a question.
Specific questions?
On
Yes.
this one. 8120 volunteers. So just out of curiosity, so a lot of this, I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but there's a lot of words shall submit to this, shall do this, shall do this, but then down under item E, in accepting the role of a volunteer, agrees to verification that a satisfactory background check may be conducted through appropriate state agencies. So, may. I thought we would always conduct a background check, or we always had to fill out, or am I not, or am I missing something there?
No, that's still our practice, that any volunteer goes through a background check.
It's a registered volunteer, though.
Correct.
So what's this actually? What's the difference between a registered volunteer and a volunteer?
A volunteer could come in and do a presentation. If they are not going to be alone with students, they would not be subjected to a background check. So if somebody would be coming in just doing a presentation for a class or for the entire school, we would not put that person through a background check. As they come in through the Raptor program, they would actually have that process, but the registered volunteer process requires them to have a background check, and because they potentially would be alone with students.
I guess I'm unclear of that. That's good clarification. I didn't know that we had different stages of volunteers. I'm not so sure that's clear for me.
Sure.
I thought I just went off that, but I would hope that we are. Because I mean, when I volunteer, so I submitted that form, and I think that's good for 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Actually, longer than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then if somebody, so that's a registered volunteer.
Yes. So we have a list of those people.
And then there's just a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So do we actually call out registered and volunteers in here? Or no?
We could,
Just,
we could make this
It's
clear.
only the first reading, you go, yeah, okay, I was just unclear
Yeah.
that, so. Thank you.
Good observation, and we can certainly make that clear.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous. Now moving on to 6E Middle School Program Guide.
Motion to approve the revised school program guide.
Can I get a second? All right, discussion is the listing of the changes, I believe, is on.
Yes, and so this is the second time. The board already saw this in discussion at our last meeting. No changes other than just a notation that all high school courses are available to middle school students. So if there are courses not offered at the middle level, if it works for students to go to the high school or take an online class, they can do that.
I did have a, so, and I forgot to ask this during Dawn's, or at the Baylene's, presentation, but here we have, so math is not, we're not allowing high school credit for math classes to take, right? Sure we are. For Algebra 1, so if they took geometry, that would be accepted, right? Okay. And then, I see the class, the finance class that we're talking about, that's in here, as another exploratory elective. And then, Project I. So I forgot to ask this. At Lake Denun's presentation, there was talk about adding Project I or that type of base learning for 6th grade. So is that reflected in the middle school guide, or is that not a?
And to be clear, Lake Denun is not actually having a Project I at the 6th grade level. It's personalized learning, which is what we're expanding across our system, yes. So it's project-based, and there's some elements that are consistent with the Project I, but it is not Project I.
Okay, and is that reflected in here?
Does the guidebook have Project I noted specifically in?
Project I is noted specifically.
Oh, I see that for 7th
and 8th.
I see it for 7 and 8. I was just curious if we, for the personalized learning, do we ever, or is that kind of by invitation only based on performance, or how is that, I guess? I mean, do we advertise that or no?
No,
Go ahead.
The two teachers who are doing the personalized learning together, that's just their model of teaching. That's their mode of teaching. It isn't a program. It's not Project I. It has certain elements of Project I, so it isn't like a course you have to elect into.
Okay, so it's built into the curriculum more so than it is a specific course that concentrates, that's purely project-based. So this is just aspects of project-based learning is built into parts
A
of
legacy.
A lockstep class curriculum. Okay, that makes sense.
And actually, that's just a great reminder that if the board would be interested in having a walkthrough, and Tony leads the committee for our system, which is all about increasing the personalized learning. If you look back on our previous Eye on the Goals, it was around increasing personalized learning. So we're on that path. It's a slow path, but certainly we can, have you see the differences. You can go into a Project I classroom and then go right next door and see what a personalized learning classroom looks like, what it looks like at an elementary level, personalized learning. So we'd be happy to do that at any point.
No, I think in general, that's what I like to hear. I probably missed it trying to read through. We had a lot of stuff to read here this meeting, but and to what Dean has said, yeah, the Lake Denun one, Project I is not for everyone. However, I do like it when it's incorporated in curriculum. Because I think there's value, I mean, just to at least be exposed to it, we have to do project-based. Periodically is good, but to be in a class that is purely project-based, that may not be. So that I like, so, okay, thank you for the clarification. Sure. Right, that's all I had on that. Okay.
Anyone else have anything? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 6F, 2016-17 school board meeting calendar.
Motion to approve the 2016-2017 school board meeting calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I believe it's the same
It is.
one that was brought up last time.
No changes.
Now, would the October 24th date have to be moved ahead if the referendum passes?
It would not for this year.
Okay,
It would not be until, our fund balance reached a point of cash flow borrowing, which really
Then it
isn't
would
until
go.
that fourth year,
So 2017 would be the earliest. that
2017 or 18, depending on how we're paying out everything.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And then so this is the schedule, but we'll later have a discussion on whether we want to continue with the rotating, and if so, what form that takes.
We certainly could. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Put it on a board meeting?
Yeah, usually talk about it after the last one.
Okay.
Recap for the year.
Sure.
That'd be a great idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to donations.
Motion to accept with thanks the following donations. At Muskego High School from an anonymous donor, $1,000, $500 to be used for the Muskego High School band, and $500 for Project Lead the Way. And from Cal McIntyre, a King 4 valve tuba for the Muskego High School marching band.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7, discussion item, 7A, budget 2015-16. Anything new, or is this a specific placeholder only?
It is a placeholder. There is just an update that on the 1st of February, we will have Linda Mott here from Key Benefits. We had our OPEB study revised, as we have to every year by law, and she's going to do a quick share out on OPEB for you. And then we'll I get that to your seat. And then we'll also be talking about school fees.
So where Dean wants double parking every year.
That's the one, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else that anyone has any questions or wants to talk about on the budget? All right, moving on to number 8, information follow-up. Anyone? Nothing. Number 9, vote for closed session. Read the closed session.
Vote for closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of specific employees over which the board has jurisdiction. Specifically, DAPES, the District Administrator Performance Evaluation System. Mid-year review.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are going to be moving into closed session in a few moments in the library, I believe. We will only be coming out of closed sessions for the purposes of adjournment. Everyone have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need our laptop.
Yeah.